Hello and welcome to today's European SharePoint Office 365 and Azure Community webinar. My name is Shane and I'm delighted to be joined by Stefano Tempesta, CTO, Microsoft Regional Director and MVP at SXiQ Australia, who will be talking to you today about Nudge Platform, AI-powered behavioural orchestration of lines of communication. Remember to join in the conversation about today's webinar on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is @EuropeanSP and our hashtag is ESPC20. Don't forget to check out the Resource Center. This is updated daily with the latest blogs, ebooks, webinars, and how-to videos. Simply visit sharepointeurope.com and click the content link at the top. After the webinar, we will have a questions and answers session. Type any questions you have in the questions window. Questions will be selected and answered at the end of the presentation. This webinar will be recorded and added to the Resource Center, where you'll be notified by email when it is available. And now I'm going to hand you over to our webinar presenter, Stefano Tempesta. Hello, Stefano.
Hey Shane, hi, thanks for the beautiful introduction and hello, beautiful community. Right, so let's talk about Nudge. And I want to do this in the context of what is currently happening around the world. This was driven by a significant challenge that we are experiencing nowadays. This challenge is we're getting overwhelmed by an incredible amount of communications, whether it's job related or your personal life is from your family and friends or from your manager and colleagues. It is estimated that the average worker deals with 9 to 15 daily line applications on a daily basis. And these applications can be what you do for your regular job, something from your HR department, or from payroll, or from customers or a client, and also from family and friends. Think of the like of Facebook or WhatsApp, any communication that comes into your way. And communication in the form of messages, emails, often turn into an action, into a task, something that we have to remind to do. There are different strategies for getting all our tasks sorted in order as a reminders to do things. I personally use my email inbox. Maybe I'm a bit old school yet, and I like to keep my inbox with a list of the tasks that I have to complete. But there are also more specialized applications for like a to-do list, like a planner. And if you're working in a project with other people, there may be a project plan and all these applications that keep on sending messages, reminders, don't forget this, don't forget that. Wow. Personally, I'm experiencing nearly burn down because it's a lot to say on top of it. Not to mention that if you are like me, active in the community, or specifically I'm a Microsoft MVP, I get to engage with meetups, events, and work and family. So I have additional audiences to take care of. Not to mention potentially different email addresses. Email address for work, for personal use, the one for the newsletter, the one for the MVP community, the one from the clients because they asked me to join their tenant. So I had to be with their email address, for example, in their Teams or Slack or whatever other tool you're using. At the end, I end up having a task list here on the left, another task list here on the right, open different windows, different browsers, In Outlook, I try to combine different calendars and merge into one to have a single view of all my tasks, all my appointments, all my meetings, and I hope I don't forget any. So we get reminded all the time. But think for a moment, where shall I put my focus? Not all of these reminders, notifications are important. Not all of them require the same level of attention. And besides this, if our lives were only about answering, responding to these requests, where do we find the time for actual work? So to sit down and complete our documents, our coding, our architecture design, our whatever job you guys do. Where do we find the time to actually focus? So this is a problem from a personal perspective, because my productivity has been hindered in this time of being always connected. And now, related to the situation that we are all experiencing around the world, this has increased because I feel like I have to be connected. As I'm working from home, I'm not in the office with my other colleagues. We have the occasional virtual coffee, catch up, the one-to-one just for seeing how people are doing, especially if you're a line manager, you want to see how your team members are doing. So this increase the level of engagement that we are doing online. Are you getting tired of this at some point? There is a limit to the effort that we can do in managing all this massive communication. From a productivity perspective, it's been noticed that organizations are struggling to make sure that there is the right level of attention that employees dedicate to complete their task. And you can't blame them, because at the end, what happens is, oh yeah, I didn't complete this document because I was on a call with John, a call with Rose, and a call with David, and a call with anybody else. And all these calls are important, don't get me wrong, but they introduce noise in our daily life. So we need to find a way to prioritize all these requests, make sure that we dedicate some special focus, and put our attention in what needs to be done first before jumping into anything else. It's an old age problem, but there is a study or a theory called nudge that is trying to understand what can be done to influence the decisions around what task we should prioritize, what importance we should give, and what focus has to be given, dedicated to complete specific task. And this nudge theory is a behavioral science, is an aspect of political component, economics, because productivity at the end is associated with financial gain or loss, as well as the potential to influence people with the right nudge, which is a subtle reminder to influence people's behavior and obtain an outcome. I share a reference at the end to the nudge theory. There are a few nice articles that I invite you to read if you're interested to know more. Not technical at all. So this is purely about the behavioral science. So understand what nudge is from a behavioral perspective. Us as humans react to setting priorities, influence our decisions, and making sure that we focus in the right direction on the right task. So all this has been studied as a very close connection with the way we are. What I mean is the way we behave over time. is strongly influenced by our preferences, our attitude. For example, I may judge a message from my partner more important than from my manager, or the other way around. And this can also translate in how quickly I respond to a notification, or how much time I dedicate to a specific task. Or some tasks are more pleasant to do over some other ones that are a bit boring or annoying, and then we try to push back and postpone or even delegate, which is a good thing as long as we have some governance around it, so that things get done and not forgotten at the end. So this is the theory, this is the concept. There are several studies. The important pattern that has been identified, the common pattern has been identified, is that people repeat themselves. Typically, they learn over time, hopefully, but typically they repeat themselves. So what I like to do is an attitude, a preference, and I keep on doing these things over time. Procrastination, or minding some message over some communication, line of communication over another one, or giving some focus, prefer focus in the morning over the afternoon. There are some patterns that can be identified in how people behave, which can influence this nudge theory, and if used in the right context with the right tools, can be used, yes, can be adopted for helping people to prioritize their task in a better way. So this is a great fit for artificial intelligence, more specifically for outcome prediction in machine learning, in the meaning that machine learning can help identifying these patterns in your typical behavior as a person, how you respond to emails, how frequently, how you allocate your time in your calendar, how what are your peak productivity periods over the time that you get more distracted or involved into other activities. So these patterns, this data that we produce, sometimes even unconsciously over time, by just interacting with all these applications, interacting with my Salesforce CRM, with my Workday timesheets, with my Outlook calendar, with my Teams channels, all these activities that I perform on a daily basis can be analyzed to identify some patterns and define some behavior that can be orchestrated, can be used to influence decisions. So nudge as a technology tied to the nudge as a theory is AI-powered behavioral orchestration of multiple lines of communications. Curation of different applications that send messages, that send reminders, emails, messages, SMS, whatever the communication line is, and then curate, so organize in a way that can influence our decisions, and even more specifically, set some priorities and focus time so that we can dedicate the right importance to the tasks that are more important over some other ones. Sounds confusing? Well, it is, right? Because this seems like, wow, you are telling me that there are ways of predicting what or influencing what I should do. Predicting actually is not a wrong word. We can predict how people behave because as humans, we are repeatable beings. We have patterns of behaviors, of attitudes that can be analyzed and repeated. And technology can help in focusing on what is a pattern, what is repeatable, and used for prediction. This is what machine learning is about. And the power of machine learning is that it can learn over time, as we do, as a child does. Basically, with the addition of other lines of communication, or even in change of patterns, because hey, from today I decide I don't want to answer business emails after 6 p.m. and I make a point about it. If before I used to do that and my attitude was relaxed in that direction, machine learning will identify that pattern, and then if I receive an email using the nudge app after 6 p.m. from my manager, it will be given the importance that it deserves because I used to react in that way in the past. But if from today I make a point with myself that I'm not going to do that any longer, then over time a new pattern is described and machine learning learns automatically. I don't have to go back to the system and code a business rule to say if email from manager name, then do this and do that. No need to do that at all. There are no business rules to introduce in the system. It's not like Outlook routing rules. No, that you can set a rule to send an email to a specific folder. You have to write this rule. Not at all. Machine learning learns automatically from the evolution of this pattern and can change the way the prediction is done based on the new pattern that is identified. Obviously, it's not just from today and I take this stand and from tomorrow I'm getting the new emails already prioritized differently. It takes some time to learn. You need to define a pattern. You have to be consistent. It's a bit like you go on a diet and you have to stick to it. You don't go on a diet from next Monday and then after a week you give up, or to the gym or whatever other activities we all promised to do at the beginning of the year, and then after a week or two we are already giving up. No, this is something that needs consistency over time to be more and more accurate. How long? Difficult to say. It depends on the amount of data. The longer and the more precise, the more consistent is your behavior, the more accurate is the prediction. All right, now let's talk a bit more of technology and see this in action. So I mentioned before, we take all these messages from different systems, we put them all together, and we display in a unified interface that consolidates all these messages. So I don't have to jump between different apps, different browsers, and see my calendar here, my case is over there, my task here, my timesheet somewhere else. This also relaxes the fatigue to just handle these 9 to 15 line of business applications that I deal with on a daily basis. I would be curious to hear if you have a different experience or a different numbers of systems. So if you want to comment also with a question that is more of a statement or a feedback, how many applications do you deal with on a daily basis? Just think about it for a moment. I have Outlook, Teams, and in Teams I have 4 accounts for sure. An account can have multiple organizations because I'm part of the Microsoft organization, my own organization, and a few other ones. And then I have my payroll system. Of course, I don't get paid every day, but whenever it happens, is another notification that I receive, or maybe I have to file expenses, or there is HR. Especially in this period, we are doing more HR activities in the meaning of more team activities together, like virtual yoga, for example. It's another way to get connected, and this is great, but it adds to the noise. What is now the priority? Is that important or not? You know, and especially with this shift of attention that we have given to be connected online, and new patterns have been identified. Okay, so what else? Very easy to onboard new applications. The technology at the core is the Microsoft Power Platform. You are familiar with the hundreds of connectors that are available for Power Automate to integrate with other systems. So onboarding a new application is as simple as connecting to the application, and then Nudge knows what kind of notifications are to be analyzed and make the recommendation itself in a single consolidated interface. Continuous optimization. Learn over time. Nudge learns over and over because it has a machine learning core at it. Collect data, read data, and understand how you are behaving, and extend this to a prediction of behavior attitude for future activities. At the moment, we are focusing on the individual, so making sure that I, as Stefano Tempesta, with all my emails and all the different apps that I have, get the right level of attention. I give the right level of attention to task, but an evolution of this concept is also to teams. Teams as in a group of people, not as the Microsoft Teams. I mean that there are also patterns of how teams work together or collaborate together or just talk to each other. It doesn't have to be necessarily work teams, as you know, in colleagues from the same company. It can be also your football team. You play five-a-side every Sunday, as I do, and then you identify some way of working together that can be improved. Things like this. So the concept is there and can be extended to identify multiple patterns and get recommendation to improve the way of working or collaborating together. So a few screens here just to show some more tangible, some more visible way of organizing all these workflows, all these messages. There is a concept that we are developing around workflows and templates. So there are some types of messages that are typically delivered, for example, scheduling an appointment for a doctor or an incident report, email marketing, satisfaction survey, whatever is a repeatable pattern. And what we notice, I mean, not we, but more of what the machine learning algorithm is emerging by analyzing this data, is that people react in a similar way to these templates of messages. For example, I just give one example, otherwise I will stay here talking for hours. When I attend some service online, I typically receive a survey for feedback, and I tend to procrastinate this, to postpone it. I don't have time to give some feedback, and I know that is important. I know that if I give my feedback, especially the negative one, hopefully someone on the other end see that I've not been happy with their service and they strive to improve it. So I always try to give some feedback and as well give positive feedback, because I want to make sure that they get the appreciation that they deserve, and they keep on doing delivering the same level of quality service. So I'm absolutely in favor of filling these surveys, but I just don't have the time right now. It's not important. I do it later. Now, in doing this, I'm already making a mental effort. I have to remind myself that there is an email there with a satisfaction survey to complete. I may leave it in my inbox and then go to that email later, or I may put a task in my Outlook or whatever tool you're using for your to-do list to remind myself to do it on a Friday afternoon, on a Saturday morning. There is an activity that I'm doing in processing this information and then prioritizing or deprioritizing accordingly based on this kind of message, this kind of template. Now, what if someone can do it for me? My virtual PA. I received this survey in my email. Don't even let me bother with it at the moment if I'm busy with other activities that requires higher focus. Instead, deprioritize automatically, archive the email somewhere, and then re-emerge. And now I'm saying an email, but can be any message, and then re-emerge at a later stage when I typically have time to dedicate for this kind of activities, which is something that I usually do on, say, Friday afternoon at 4 p.m. because this is what machine learning has identified me doing in the past 6 months, year. And then if I receive that satisfaction survey message on a Monday morning, is absolutely not the right time. I have a lot of other things to do. So then this is automatically postponed without my intervention at all, without me having even a look at it. And this is the workflow that can generate an automatic prioritization that will save me the distraction of dealing with it and help me focus on the activity that I have to do on a Monday morning, or whatever the focus activity is. I mentioned there are unlimited services virtually that you can build. This can be messages, application that send a message like WhatsApp, Messenger, but it can be emails, can be line of business applications that have task list. They can be obviously organized, structured in work, personal, family, friends. You tag it, you label it the way you want. It's just a label, just a tag. It doesn't really matter the importance. We're trying to avoid putting business rules. So I want to assign a weight or an importance flag to work over family. This has to come from analysis of my attitude, of my behavior. Because if I start influencing the system with setting rules, then I sort of condition myself in behaving that way. Instead, I want to be analyzed, and this may sound a bit creepy, but what I mean is that I want the system to learn what I do so that it can suggest the best way of me dedicating the time to process all this information. So all the systems that are available in the Power Platform can be done, and as you know, or if you don't know, Power, all these connectors can be extended with a custom API, so you can build any, including on-premises systems using a data gateway. I may have a slide about it later, so we'll talk about this in a moment. Now, a few use cases that where nudge can be applied, because it is all about consolidating messages, but it's all about giving the right importance, and it's all about predicting the focus time that we need to dedicate to all these activities. So the core concept that is an outcome of nudge is coordination of all these activities, and presenting also sometimes in a simplified way. One of the things that I typically struggle with when I interview candidates for a position at my company, and is finding the right time for that person to have an interview. It's unbelievable how difficult it is to find time that is suitable for me and for the candidate. And often we bounce emails back and forth. Hey, is 2 p.m. okay? No, sorry, I can't make it. Okay, is 3 p.m. okay? Oh, no, sorry, how about 4? No, 4 is not okay with me. How about 5 p.m.? So we bounce a lot of this communication. Maybe we should just call and on the spot, or we can use an application like Calendly or similar, right? But how about my virtual personal assistant does this for me? How about I don't have to deal with finding the right time for me to dedicate to interviewing that person, and instead this personal assistant, because at the end this is what is doing, identifies based on my previous patterns, so based on how much time I dedicated in the past to this kind of activity, and then suggests these options directly. So that screenshot that you see here online, now on screen, so let's set up a time to have a chat in person. I didn't build this list 10 to 11, 1 to 2 p.m., 2:30 to 3:30 p.m. I didn't write this. The system automatically generated these options based on my availability, based on the time that I can dedicate to this activity, because it doesn't clash with other priority tasks that I have to look after. And so in this case, it will give you some options and the candidate has to pick between these three. So managing some critical communications also in real time. There is a lot of data, and data can be and should be contextualized. This is what I call put data to work in the context of what you are doing. So for example, this can be extended to external APIs that apparently have nothing to do with time management, like a weather API. Today is super sunny on the Ocean Grove in Melbourne, Australia, where I live. And how about applying some sunscreen? UV exposure is very high. Be aware of this concern. Apply some protection. This is a way to unlock some business opportunity, partnering with other organizations and with other vendors that can, inject their business models into an app that is helping you to do the right things at the right time. I know that doesn't sound like time management, but the point is that we're trying to stay away from the pure concept of time management. Because if we are after an app for time management, we don't need this. There are a lot of apps where you can set your to-do list, your planner, your task, and you deal with that. But they are active in the meaning that you need to act on the system to set your task. This is an app that is proactively identifying the best way of spending your time and performing your task. So in this case, is a gentle reminder that because the weather condition, then you have to apply these things, for example, which can be extended also to some services. Building a user journey. So in this case, I'm checking in this hotel. I'm about to go there for the check-in time, which has been prioritized for, I don't know, 2 p.m. I'm traveling that direction. and I can get offers maybe for lunch or for coffee or for other activities. So create some promotion, some or purely brand awareness. It's not only about selling things, right? It's just creating awareness that there is an event nearby in the art center next to the hotel, for example. It's about personalizing the customer journey and making sure that the user is engaging continuously. Is a real PA, is a real personal assistant. It's not just about booking time on your calendar and responding to your email, but it's making sure that your journey is as smooth as possible. I hope you start getting the idea of where nudge is. It started from a theory of gentle reminders, but there's a potential to extend into a virtual PA, virtual personal assistant. So the roadmap is consolidation of different line of business. The more the merrier. Having a front-end app for different front ends. This can be a mobile app, but it can be a SharePoint web part. Can run inside Teams. White labeling, so just get the engine and put it anywhere you want. There is the predictive assistant that is all powered by machine learning. So look into your calendar, your emails, prioritize work, allocate focus time, suggest similar resolution for common requests. Every time I receive that email about a customer survey, then respond or allocate time or do something that doesn't distract me right now from what I'm doing and can be allocated at a later time. And sometimes even replying automatically. If I don't know, I receive an invite to play soccer or football, depending where you live, at 9 a.m. On a Sunday, and you already replied a few times that you're not going to wake up on a Sunday morning at that time, then the next time you just reply automatically. Okay, now maybe this is a bit of a silly example, but if you have a common task that you repeat over and over again, this virtual agent can help you filtering these requests so you can focus on the things that matter to you the most. I mentioned about white labeling, so obviously there is an API everywhere. There is an API now that you can interact, so you can build your own front end. Can be in SharePoint, in SPFX, can be a progressive web app, run also in a containerized solution, so cross cloud. You can run it on Azure, on Google Cloud, on AWS, and all data for querying and filters. As you can see in the screenshot here, that is absolutely very clear. You can see all my emails, events, and tasks that are all being prioritized very clearly by nudge. I receive a message from the communication here that they're saying, oh no, this is not very clear. Okay, gotcha. So you see right down emails, next events, and tasks. Okay, let me zoom it for you. So this has been prioritized and classified in 3 blocks, in 3 containers. So this is purely your own decision because that's the way this customer wanted to organize their intranet. But using OData queries, then you can get the latest emails or events and tasks that you have received, and then display this in a paginating way. I mean, little things, but just to give you an idea of the flexibility of the solution that can be used for being personalized the way you want. And I don't want to transfer the message that oh gosh, this is sort of a black box where I input all my data, it will read everything that I do and come out with a plan for the rest of my life. Not at all. You can personalize and adapt to the way you work. I mentioned about on-premises before, so leveraging the data gateway, Nudge can send a message to a service bus in Azure, but at the end, the concept of a service bus can be applied anywhere. And the application that is on premises communicate only with the service bus with outbound messages. So there is no inbound into behind the firewall into the on-premises network, which means that your premises are absolutely secure. All the communication is encrypted, so there is assurance of security for all your local data sources. So they're not exposed to the internet. Only the gateway is responsible for communication with the service bus, and is the only application that is registered to communicate with the service bus using the typical publish subscribe pattern to a topic, so no one else can interfere with this communication. So in summary, we are at the end. I want to leave some time for some questions, if there are any. And the idea is collect messages from all around the world and make sure that they all consolidate into a system that makes sense of all these messages, tasks, activities in general. Identify what triggers this message and what is the typical answer, so some logic there, what we put on a queue or to be processed at a later stage. So as I mentioned at the beginning, I use my email inbox as a queue of tasks to do, and to validate this activity, when this is done, when I can dedicate time for it. And all is powered by data and machine learning. At the end, I merge these with curated, targeted messages, automatic replay, actionable outcome, even focus time automatically allocated on your calendar. This is something that I'm experimenting at the moment, that based on my typical work patterns, I have a nudge allocate block some time in my Outlook calendar so that no one can book a call, a meeting with me in that focus time, because my calendar looks busy and I don't have to do it intentionally, going into my Outlook calendar and book my time. Nudge, my personal VA, is doing for me based on my work patterns. All right, so if you want to get started with Nudge and understand a bit more the concept behind this, this is purely non-technical readings, so very good for a night reading before going to bed. A couple of articles there. The first one is all about the nudge theory, so it may be a bit heavy to read, but I found it quite valuable. And the second one is a research study, how this concept of nudging a person has a good impact on the workplaces and how this is creating change in a modern workplace. I welcome feedback now or later, so please do get in touch, Twitter, LinkedIn. I always welcome the opportunity to exchange and to build a good professional network. And are there any questions now that I can answer?
Thanks for a great presentation. Yes, now we will start the questions and answers part. And should you wish to ask Stefano a question, please type it into the questions window now. Okay, Stefano, here is the first question. How many systems are integrated in the Nudge app currently?
A few, not many. I believe 12 or 13. Look, potentially all of them in the Power Platform can be integrated. It can even be, a Dropbox or because at the end you get notification also there. We didn't, because there is no demand for that. So we are mostly driven by demand of having a system integrated. I have done also custom integration with a connector that doesn't exist in the Power Platform for an HR system, old one, legacy, that probably exists only in Australia and runs on premises. So custom connector, build a REST API and integrate, so it works perfectly, no problem. So at the moment there are 12 or 13 applications, line of business that we are consolidating all together. But as said, this can grow. You can add as many connectors as you want.
Okay. Can I override the importance of some notifications for a temporary period, for example, during annual leave?
Okay. Not right now. This is a good point though, because unless you go on annual leave always in the same week of the year, and then the system learns that you have this pattern, then there is no way to say, okay, today this week, next week I'm on annual leave or I'm not. So the system will keep on giving you always the same prediction. Unless obviously there is a pattern. So say the first 2 weeks of August I always go on leave, and then over time the system will learn that the first 2 weeks of August it will not disturb you. But this is a very weak pattern in some way. So people get on holiday in a different time. I mean, there may be some holiday times like Christmas, New Year that are a bit more predictable, but not intentionally. So there is no button to say, okay, I'm on leave now. But it can be a good announcement.
Okay. And how does the system deal with false positives, that is, notifications that are prioritized incorrectly?
False positive. Okay, so you mean I get a notification that the system identifies as important because it looks like important based on patterns, but it actually wasn't. So it's a false positive. Well,
Right.
initially it will tell you that is important because it matches the patterns, and so it will come out as important. But then, because you react to that message in a way that you don't give it the necessary importance, the system will learn over time and will increase the accuracy. So similar messages with similar wording or the similar source will be then deprioritized as the system learns that you have reacted in a negative way. It's typical machine learning. The same way you will do machine learning for false positive or true negatives as well. So machine learning learns over time.
Great. And Stefano, for anybody who might be watching this on demand, they can reach out to you there with the contact details that are on screen. So they can reach out to you on Twitter or connect with you on LinkedIn.
All right, then. Thank
Brilliant.
you, Shane. That was good journey. Hopefully people have enjoyed, appreciated, and again, as any feedback, get in touch. Happy to have a conversation. Thanks again.
Brilliant. Well, on behalf of the ESPC community, thank you, Stefano, for taking the time today to complete this webinar. We really appreciate it. Okay. So this is the end of today's webinar. Please see sharepointeurope.com for further details on all upcoming webinars, or visit our resource center where you'll be able to find all previous episodes. Again, a big thank you to Stefano, and thank you for joining us today. Take care and goodbye.